Solving inequalities by multiplying or dividing. When multiplying an inequality by a positive value, the order of the inequality does not change. So for instance, if we have 5 is greater than 3, if we multiply both of them by 2, then we get 10 is greater than 6, and that's still true. Same as if we multiply 8 and 12 here by 4, 8 is less than 12, but 8 times 4 is 32, and 12 times 4 is 48, and 32 is still less than 48. So when we multiply by a positive number, nothing changes. So solve, graph, and check the solution for this inequality. 1/2 x is less than or equal to 8. So again, we need to solve this just like we would an equality. So 1/2 is multiplied by x, so we divide by 1/2, but that really means that we multiply by the reciprocal, 2/1. And so when we do that, we get x is less than or equal to 16, because 8 times 2 is 16. And then they liked us to graph this. And so here's 0, here's 4, 8, 12, 16. And it's going to be less than or equal to, so again we fill the circle in for equal to, and less than means anything going to the left. And we think about that, check it. 16 is times 1/2, put that back into the original equation, is less than or equal to 8, and so half of 16 is 8, so 8 is equal to 8. So that is true. And then we can check some other number like 0. 1/2 of 0 has to be less than or equal to 8. And 1/2 of 0 is 0. And 0 is less than or equal to 8. So we know we're going in the correct direction there. When solving an equation, the equality symbol never changes. Each transformation results in an equation equivalent to the previous equation. So if you remember up here what we just did, we multiplied by 2 on both parts there, and our equality still, or inequality here, remained the same. But in equality, it always remains the same. And in inequality, that's not true because of dividing by negatives or multiplying by negatives. So if you take this example right here, if you look at 5 is greater than 3 and you multiply both of those by a -2, 5 times -2 is -10, and 3 times -2 is -6. And -10 is less than -6, where when we started out here, we had 5 was greater than 3. And so you notice inequality switches signs. So we went from greater than to less than. Same thing here with 8 and 12. If you multiply both of them by a -4, you end up with -32, which is greater than -48, where we started out with 8 is less than 12. So when you're multiplying or dividing, we'll get to that in a minute, when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative in an inequality, it switches to the inequality to the opposite symbol. So for instance, this one, we have divided by 5, so we'd have to multiply by 5. We're going to include that negative in there. If you have negative x divided by 5, we can multiply that by -5, and the negatives will go turn to positive, and the 5s will cancel out. And so we're going to multiply by -5 on this side as well. So we're going to do that -5 on both sides. When we do that, the 5s cancel, the negatives turn to positive, and we get x. But since we divide or multiply by a -5, we have to change the symbol. So now x is greater than -25. And again, graphing that, draw your number line. We have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. There's our -25. And we're talking about greater than. There's no equal to here, so it's an open circle. And it's going to go to the right. Now let's check it and make sure. If we put our endpoint in, -25, is that greater than -25? No, it's not. So it better be an open circle there. And we want to check 0 in here as well. And you can pick any number on the same side that we drew the line on. But 0 is a nice one to check. Is 0 greater than -25? That's true. So that's the side we better have the arrow going to. If I had picked -50, -50 is not greater than -25. So if you see over here, if we went out to negative 50 out here, that one should be false because the arrow isn't going that direction. Page 2. Dividing with inequalities. Dividing with inequalities works the same way as multiplying with inequalities. So on this problem, we're going to divide both sides by 3. And so we get r is less than 6. And you might want to switch that around to r is less than 6 this way. Those are the same thing. But now we're going to graph it. And again, here's our 0 and 6. And it's not equal to, so we have an open circle. And this is anything less than 6, so it should be going to the left. When dividing by a negative value, the order of the inequality changes. So again, because we're dividing by negative 2 here, this inequality changes from what it was. And so when you divide 6 by negative 2, you get negative 3, and when you divide 4 by negative 2, you get negative 2, and negative 2 has to be greater than negative 3. It isn't less, which is what the original equation said. And so if we have an equation or an inequality with a negative in it where we have to divide a negative, so here we're going to divide by negative 4, then that means we have to switch around the inequality. So that's going to be m is less than or equal to 7 over negative 4, or negative 7/4. Again, graphing negative 7/4. Here's your 0. And negative 7/4, we'd want to change that into a mixed number. So that's 1 3/4. So really, m is less than or equal to negative 1 3/4. And so we go over, I'm going to go over 1 and 2. And 1 3/4 is here. And so we're going to put in a filled-in circle on that. And it's going to be less than. And so less than goes to the left. Again, you can check that by putting in negative 1 3/4 is less than or equal to negative 1 3/4. It's actually equal to. And then check another number over there, negative 3. So negative 3 is less than or equal to negative 1 3/4. And those are both true, so we know we shaded the correct part. Last one is an application problem with business. It says an employment agency charges a company 15% of the salary for every position filled. What salary must the company pay a new employee for their employment agency to earn a commission of at least $6,000? So of at least $6,000 means it's going to be greater than or equal to $6,000. And what is this that we're talking about? We're talking about 15% of the salary. So 15% is 0.15. Of means times x. We don't know what the salary is. But they want to earn a commission of 6,000. And you can use that as 15 hundredths, or you can use that as 0.15. I'm going to use it as 15 hundredths. And so I'm going to multiply by 100 over 15. And since it's positive, the inequality does not change. So it's x is greater than or equal to, and I'm going to do some canceling now. 15 goes into 64 times. So 4 and 4 zeros is 40,000. So in other words, the employment agency must have a salary of $40,000 in order to have, of at least $40,000 in order to have a commission of at least $6,000.